Hello everybody and welcome to Connect to Success with Ashley Owens on RVN TV, where I talk to the power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. And I have the privilege and the pleasure to be interviewing Miss Mia Hanson, who is the president of Breakfree Strategies. And I'm so glad you're here today, Mia.
Thank you, Ashley. It's great to be on your show.
Yes. So the reason why I love Mia so very much is one of two things. One, Mia and I work together on a few different projects, and two, she runs the best parties in Philly.
Wow.
But she combines networking and client relations and all of these things into these amazing parties. And I think the one I first went to, I think it was Christmas time, and you did it beautifully. It was a great mix of networking, a great mix of clients. I got a chance to meet some wonderful people, but there was no pressure. No pressure to mingle. There was no pressure to do business. It was all very much a very, very strategic and a very easy party to go to, and it was really, really nice. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I believe in combining our clients and our customers along with our family and our friends. And actually, because of that, I think that we have found a lot of our clients have become our friends.
Oh, yeah.
And so certainly that makes it more fun. And I appreciate my friends so much and my family. And I think that they're good as somebody that would represent me and my company and what we do. So that's one of the things that I enjoy, is combining them.
So with your position and with your company, please tell the audience exactly what you do and why Breakfree Strategies and why emotional intelligence is so important just for companies and to be able to help them grow and help them sustain themselves.
Right. Well, so Breakfree Strategies, one of the things that we do is we are a certified partner for the Predictive Index. And basically what it is I sell a software platform to companies that helps them to understand best what I believe is their biggest asset, and that is the people, their employees, and who they have representing them and working for them. And so this platform, this software, helps these companies with their hiring. It helps them with engagement and retaining their employees, team building. It helps with succession planning, all of that. So it's based on a very quick, maybe like 7 minutes in average, 2-question survey, very simple, very easy. And it's a pleasant experience, and the amount of information that it provides to the company on the employee or on the candidate for hire is really unbelievable. It's remarkable.
What has been some of the success stories that you've had with your clients that you saw a huge change in their culture?
Well, for instance, I just came back yesterday from Europe, and we've been working with a multinational with their sales force. There are about 400 salespeople that they have across the world.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that we've been able to help them do is to really get an understanding of the behavioral traits that they need in a successful sales representative. So, for instance, does that sales rep need to have high dominance? Do they need to be necessarily extroverted? What kind of formality do they really like? Details and process and that type of a thing. And we are able to put together some, like 4 or 5 really good profiles that they can now hire towards when they're bringing in new folks. So that's one of the things that we've done, as well as, oh my gosh, I do at least 1 or 2 team buildings a week with companies and their current employees and building their teams.
What do you think, I know people will ask you this, I've had a few people who have done emotional intelligence, or I know of, because you've got the DISC assessment, you've got Myers-Briggs. What is the difference between all of those assessments that are common and the PI assessment?
Actually, most people don't realize this, but the Predictive Index has been around since World War II. It was one of the original ones, along with Myers-Briggs. A man by the name of Arnold Daniels. He was with the Army Corps of Engineers, working with a team of engineers to determine what made some of the best teams within, especially when it came to bombing missions. I hate to talk about that right now, but what was it that made the team successful? What were the behavioral traits of the different members of the team and how they fit together? So then after their success in that World War II, he came back in, put that information that he learned towards business.
Okay.
And then sometime in the mid-'80s, I believe it was, that behavioral assessments in general just gained a little bit more respect, and they became more of the psychologists and psychiatrists started to take notice, and it gained much more credibility at that time. Since then, there have been a lot of spin-offs, and, well, Predictive Index and I would say Myers-Briggs are the original ones.
Oh, interesting. And the Predictive Index was a extension of Myers-Briggs, or was it
No,
the other way
they're
around?
completely different.
Got
So Myers-Briggs, if anybody out there has taken Myers-Briggs, it's a much longer assessment. It takes a while, and it's a forced choice. A lot of them are, not just Myers-Briggs, but most of them out there are forced choice, meaning that you have to pick A, B, C, D, or E, whether you like any of them or not. And a lot of people don't like that feeling. It makes them a little bit tense, and they get concerned about how that this is going to portray them as it comes across. The Predictive Index assessment is very different from that in that it's open choice. You're basically choosing things, and I don't want to give it away too much, but it's very simple and it's a very positive experience. And I think most people are shocked that something so simple can provide so much valid information on what drives that person. So in a sense, I would say the differences are it's open choice, so it's a lot less tension involved, and then it's very quick and easy. Literally, it takes an average of about 7 minutes to complete.
And with that time frame, how do you find, being the president of this company, how do you find that you've been able to see people a little bit differently, because now you're able to kind of identify a little bit more about them? I mean, for me, I know that to me would feel like I know a secret. And when I took your class and I learned more about the PI assessment and that team building aspect, it was fascinating, because I would look people differently, not in a bad way, but I would have more of an understanding of how they thought, what drove them, and it was uneasy for like the first 24 hours, and then I was like, I know things that you don't know about yourself, and I know how to talk to you now. So what was that like for you, as being a subject matter expert in that, to be able to identify a little bit more of who people are just by talking to them?
Right. Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. It is a little bit, it's intriguing to bring another whole facet to your mindset about people that you meet. We have a mantra at Predictive Index, and it is that all profiles are beautiful. And we truly believe that, and I believe that wholeheartedly. I think that, like Socrates said, we know thyself. That's the most important function when it comes to being a good leader, making good decisions, communicating well, all of it. If you know yourself, you're more likely to understand what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and we all have them. And so you're more apt to find people around you, say on your team, on your management team, that play up your strengths and also help you to fill the gaps of any weaknesses that you have as a leader. And so to that, I would say that a lot of people, I'm interested in folks that do have that knowledge. They're very self-aware. And I'm able to see that pretty quickly now, which I really appreciate. And then just sometimes, and I try not to do this because you really should not try to guess at what someone's drive is. You should, it could get you in a lot of trouble, but I do that sometimes. If I don't know what their PI is or their behavioral format might be, yeah, I do try to guess at what they might, where is their formality, where's their extroversion, where's their dominance and their patience, and so.
Do you find that has helped you in a prospecting kind of situation?
Absolutely.
Okay, how so?
So when I when I first talked to a company, I do like to talk to someone as high level as possible, obviously, and basically I ask them to take the Predictive Index behavioral assessment prior to meeting them. And by doing that, I already have a good sense of what drives them. So I'm able to then adapt the way that I speak to them based on that. And that's actually one of the things that we teach in our sales training as well, is because as a sales rep, you don't have that information at your fingertips with who you're talking to. But we teach people how to very quickly, within 2-5 minutes, put that person within a quadrant of whether or not they're a controller or an analyzer or a cooperator or an expressor, so that you can start to adapt the way that you speak to them. And that way you're able to get a little more respect much more quickly and come across as somebody that's an advocate for them. So I really believe in this stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. So that has only benefited, obviously, your own business, you know, your own company, to be able to say, I know how to adapt to this person, I know how to explain the benefits of why they should work with us, and it just allows you to be a little step ahead. Have you gotten, and this is just more out of curiosity, because I used to work in sales. I do have a lot of friends that are in sales, and you get them kind of put into different buckets where you've got the salesperson, the salesy person, and then you've got the person who is, you know, the giver, but not really closing that many deals, and it can be a very fickle business. Where do you think most, and again, this is a loaded question because I know the answer to it, but where do you think most people fall in line with the PI as a salesperson?
Oh gosh. You know, I think that's a hard question to answer, and the only reason is there's really no simple answer. It depends on the industry that you're selling in. It depends on who you're selling to. It depends on what you're selling, all of that. So for instance, typically what we see in the past has been somebody with a very high extroversion, because salespeople need to be comfortable going out and speaking to people that they don't know. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of putting yourself out there with folks that you're not comfortable with. So in the past, what I'd say companies looked for in general was a high extroversion, but I absolutely don't think that that is a good idea if you're dealing with a highly technical sale. So for instance, if I have a client that sells within the electronic materials chemicals industry, and their customers are people like Samsung and Intel and Apple, and they're dealing with a lot of high-level engineers. And I think that somebody with very high extroversion going into an engineer, that person might look a little too casual, a little too cursory in the way that they're handling the conversation that they're having with them. So truly, it's not that there's one particular profile that works for a sales rep. It really depends on what it is that they're selling and who they're selling to in the industry in general.
Perfect. There's no one secret sauce for one person to do it.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Right.
So when we return, we're going to talk to Mia about her practical tips and tactical takeaways when it comes to networking, her tips and tricks, but also the next party she's having, because I want to go. Stay tuned.
For independent living for seniors age 62 and over, People Inc. offers safe, maintenance-free apartments across Western New York. The affordable rent is income-based. For more information, call People Inc. Senior Living at 817-9090.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Assurance. It's a word, a touch, a look that sparks a feeling. Peace of mind that everything will be all right. These are the moments that inspire us to do more than you'd ever expect from a car insurance company, at a price that's less than you'd expect. This is more than just insurance. This is Plymouth Rock Assurance. Visit us at PlymouthRock.com.
Hi, my name's Casey Price, host of a brand new show called Everyday Elder Care. My show will help you take the stress out of caring for your elderly loved one by educating you about options and solutions you may not even know exist. Tune in every Tuesday at noon on RVN TV. We'll see you there.
Imagine the finest hand-selected USDA prime steak you'll ever have. The freshest line-caught seafood, our Wine Spectator award-winning wine list, and soul-satisfying desserts. Bring that together with the perfect date, the winning business deal, a memorable family celebration. Welcome to Rod's Steak and Seafood Grill in nearby Morristown, New Jersey. Bring your appetite and feed your passion.
For independent living for seniors age 62 and over, People Inc. offers safe, maintenance-free apartments across Western New York. The affordable rent is income-based. For more information, call People Inc. Senior Living at 817-9090.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Assurance. It's a word, a touch, a look that sparks a feeling. Peace of mind that everything will be all right. These are the moments that inspire us to do more than you'd ever expect from a car insurance company at a price that's less than you'd expect. This is
And welcome back to Connect to Success with Ashley Owens. I have the lovely and the glorious Mia Hanson from Breakfree Strategies, and we were just talking about just the mad science that goes into the predictive index. It's just so exciting, so wonderful. And I love it so much because it's so powerful. So we were talking about ideally, because a lot of people that do watch the show, they are in an account management position, a customer service position, who are learning about tips and tricks for networking, because some people use them for, tips to get the sale or tips to build a relationship. What I find very interesting is that there's not one criteria for a sales or account manager position. The personalities and the things around them dictate that. So sometimes you do see turnover in sales positions for different companies, but I think that what you brought up was so powerful, because a lot of times people who don't do well in one area don't think that they should be still in that same position in a different area, but it has to do with the environment, it has to do with what they're selling, what value that they're giving as a account manager, and it's nice to hear that there are other factors involved than thinking that you might have failed. I mean, I know there's been positions where I just didn't fit in and I had no idea what that gnawing feeling was in the bottom of my pit of my stomach, and having that as a affirmation that it just probably wasn't the right mix for your personality. So one of the things I had noticed, and this is just more fun for me to talk about, but when I took your class, it was so spot on, it was uncanny. And I learned a lot about myself as far as what drove me and where my skill sets were and not where my shortcomings were. And when I started my business, I really wanted to triple down on my strengths. And I didn't know what those were until I took something like, like the PI. And so that allowed me to kind of focus more on those strengths rather than trying to continually overcome the weaknesses. And it was, again, an affirmation that, okay, I'm in the right spot now, which was like 8 years of not knowing and following the rules in that way.
That's right.
Do you ever find that has been kind of like a revelation for a lot of the people that you've worked with?
Absolutely. Sometimes I'll do a read back of someone, and they will finally realize that they're trying so hard to be something that they don't really care to be, and I think that is when the light bulb goes off. And I really do believe that we, from day to day as humans, it's human nature that we adapt. We do. But if you think about it, if you start the day with, let's say, a jar of jelly beans, and that is the energy for you that day, if you are constantly spending that day pushing yourself to do something that does not come naturally to you, by the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that jelly bean jar is going to be depleted. You're gonna lose all that energy, and by the time you get home, you just need to sit and veg and not talk to anyone. And that's not a good thing. If you're doing that day in and day out, you're going to work and you're being something that is just not you. It's not comfortable. It's and you guys, you got to know it. I mean, people know it. But it does give some validation when somebody gets a read back to get a better understanding of why they feel that way. And so, a lot of times that happens. And that's why it's so critical for today with the way that it's going with hiring. It's getting a little bit more difficult to find the right people. It's getting more difficult to engage and retain those great people. That's why it's critical to have a good understanding of, are they doing what they're best at? Are they doing what is going to make them the happiest? Because it's not always, especially today, it's not always money that makes somebody stay, but it's also a sense of belonging, a sense of doing what you think is your purpose in life. Even if it's a stepping stone and you know it's getting to that purpose one day. So I think it's especially critical right now in this environment to understand your employees better than we have in the past, so that we can understand, are they happy with what they're doing in their current environment? Are there changes that we can make them to make them more comfortable? That way you're more apt to retain those employees that you find so valuable.
Do you think that this, and I'm saying trend very lightly, but do you think that there is a correlation between a lot of employees being unhappy and they're going out on their own? Do you think that there is a situation where they got fed up because they were just not in the right spot and started their own thing and then worked towards their strengths? Have you seen any of that with the clients that you've worked with, or kind of a trend in the entrepreneurship?
I think, you're right. I do think it's a bit of a trend, but I think a lot of employees today are not feeling loyalty from large corporations, and so in turn, they don't feel like they have to be loyal to them as well. And I also think, and I hate to talk generational things because we hear Gen X and all this, and millennials, and they're hard to work with. I don't agree with any of that. But I do think that there is a sense today, there is more of an entrepreneurial spirit today than, say, there was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's almost like we're going back to the 20s.
I was about to say,
where
right, yeah.
It's almost like cyclical, and I feel like, there are a lot more people out there now that are willing to take a chance. on themselves from an entrepreneurial sense. I would agree with that.
Interesting. And I mean, I live it every day, but I didn't realize, again, until I got a chance to chat with you guys about how that was the option, the only option that made sense. And it was, had tried everything else. And it's interesting because it's not just about what drives people. It's about what is inherently in you that it won't change. It's in your DNA. And that is something that people fight all of the time. And when you fight against that, like you said, the jelly beans, I mean, I cannot tell you how much that I resonate with that. And that allows me to have more self-awareness. And I think people in any position, you hear people about how they hate their jobs, how they're overwhelmed, how they're doing all these things. And if they just took a step back and see what's black and white on, here's you. You can't, it's in your DNA. You can adapt. But how much are you pushing against the wall there?
Exactly. Yeah. And actually that's one of the things that the software does, is it tells you this is who you truly are from a behavioral standpoint. Sometime in our mid to late 20s, we become pretty solidified, if you will, in our behavioral traits. They don't change a whole lot given any, unless there's a catastrophic thing that happens in your life or something that really makes you question things.
Like a trauma or something?
Right.
Yeah.
But then it also tells you this is how you feel you need to adapt in your current environment. So it's telling you this is you. This is how you're coming to work and trying to adapt. And if you look at those and there's a big skew, a big difference, then you know that, that's just, to me, a red flag. And it's something that if I were in HR and I saw that, I would have a conversation with that very valued employee. Is there something we can do to make this more comfortable for you?
Right, because when you do take the test, it's how do you think people perceive you and then how you feel about yourself. That's right. I remember seeing that. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. So that actually kind of blends beautifully into that networking part, because you, as a person who is going out, running a business, I talk about this all the time, but when you network, there's no secret sauce either. It's what works for you. So if you have a specific area where something else drives you and, when you come home, you're completely spent. I'm not going to, consult a client to go to a very large event because that's counterproductive to them. So when you network and when you're going out and when people are, trying to grow their businesses and collaborate, it's having that understanding and self-awareness of saying, okay, I know where I'm the most comfortable. I know where my skills lie. How do I cater that into my networking style?
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that, it's somebody that has, let's talk extroversion, because when you think about networking, somebody with high extroversion, they'll go to a networking event, and this is you, very high network, or a very high extroversion.
Thank you.
Will go to a networking event and speak to 15 people, 20 people. You're, the belle of the ball, you're loving it, you're eating it all up, you're shaking hands, you're patting people on the back. You know everybody in the room, they already know you. And you get energy from that.
Very much so. Yep.
Somebody with very low extroversion, we call it introspective, and these tend to be a lot more creative in that because they're introspective, they take a little bit more time to trust, they have more of a prove-it attitude, but they can still go to that networking event. It's not that they won't go to it or they can't, but instead of talking to 15, 20 people and having quick conversations around the room, they could choose 4 or 5 people in the room. And they'll find that they have more in-depth conversations and deeper conversations. And so that's the difference. It's not that one's better than the other, but from a networking standpoint, if you understand that about yourself, and it kind of takes the pressure off you to not go out and meet 15 people at a networking event. Instead, focus on 4 or 5 and have those really great conversations. And then, in addition, what we do is we hire Ashley to be our networking concierge.
Oh, thank you.
So, and you could do that. You could bring someone with you to a networking event that maybe is not is more comfortable and gets energy from that networking, and ask them to come in and help you do this and be your advocate, because they're going to enjoy it.
Yep.
And then they can bring people to you that they think
Right.
you should talk with, which is what you do.
Thank you very much. And it, just to kind of teeter off of that too, to be able to not to do the quality rather than the quantity, especially if you're very high energy, have the extroversion and you
Right.
love it, to kind of counteract that and still have those meaningful conversations, schedule a meeting. Make sure you schedule the meeting so that way it's the one-on-one. So you can hit a bunch of people, but the goal at the end of the day is to, the goal is always to get that, the in-depth conversation. So being able to
And
counteract
that's a good
both.
point. So
Yeah.
if you know yourself and you know that you're the one that likes to flit around
Yep.
and have quick conversations, in the end, you really do need to get
You have
that
to.
in-depth conversation, so
Yeah.
schedule a meeting. But again, it comes from self-awareness. So.
Well,
And I
perfect.
think
So
that
how
that's
can
important.
people find you, Mia? You looked at that camera because you're so
Oh
pretty.
my gosh. Okay, so the website is breakfreestrategies.com. You could even Google the Predictive Index Philadelphia and you'll find breakfreestrategies.com. Also, I'm on LinkedIn at Mia S. Hanson. And also we have a Break Free Strategies LinkedIn. And also if you know Ashley, she can get in touch with us as well.
That's
So,
right. Perfect. I will guide everybody to you because I think
Great.
the self-awareness is so beautiful with how people need to run their businesses, but also be aware enough to know how to adapt to other people and be conscious of that.
Right.
And also to see if you don't fit where you are now. It's important.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, stay tuned next week where we talk to power networkers of the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. Thank you for watching Connect to Success on RVN TV, 12:30 on your lunch break, and we'll see you next week.
More than just insurance.